Things are certainly heating up when it comes to the election with polls and policies and that sort of thing. Only a few weeks, really, for the politicians to continue debating in Parliament before it's, school's out between then and the election, and they've got to fight hard to keep their jobs, I suppose. Joining us on the program now, political commentator and lecturer in political studies at Victoria University in Wellington, Dr. Bryce Edwards. Bryce, kia ora, good morning.
Morena, Andrew, I'm joining you from Nelson today. I don't know if any viewers are watching this online, but you'll see me with blue skies behind me. I'm at my father's retirement village.
It looks absolutely stunning. It looks absolutely stunning, Bryce.
It's very nice.
And Nelson on a good day, etc. Hey, when it comes to politics, I suppose this is kind of cramming for the finals, really, with lots of policies being announced in the last week. Of course, it's a bit of the scramble to say, hey, if we promise to spend lots of money, then maybe we'll get voted in and we'll get the chance to do that. But actually, the promises seem to be going higher and higher, perhaps as the expectations of getting voted in go lower and lower for some parties.
Oh, yes. Andrew, I've never thought of that analogy, but yes, my students in those last few days before the final exam, they do panic and they get very stressed.
Yep.
And I sort of remind them that they should have been, preparing well before now, and they're leaving it a bit too late, but I don't really want to rub it in.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. It is a bit like that, I think, with the government, and they haven't really got a lot of policies for the election out yet.
Yeah.
And they're kind of saving them towards the end. I think we're getting some tax policy this weekend from Labor, but we have had policies on transport come out in the last week for Auckland, with a pretty major one with those tunnels.
Yeah.
But it did seem a bit last minute.
Can I just jump onto that one for a moment? Because I mean, hey, any Aucklander stuck in traffic would go, oh gosh, finally somebody's doing something. But promising billions and billions of dollars. The Auckland Mayor has already says, well, that's not going to happen on my watch. National's saying, well, the millions that have been spent on developing light rail, well, we'll scrap that if we get in. Actually making a decision on these big infrastructure projects, you can promise what you like, but even if they do get voted in, it may not make it across the line in terms of actually being a shovel-ready project.
Yeah, and this is where that kind of bipartisan agreement, is quite useful when parties do come together and try and get agreement. So it does feel a bit like electioneering when a government just brings this out and hasn't really consulted with the mayor of the city or anyone really of significance about these things. So yeah, and it's a bit hard. I mean, yes, you're in Auckland, you think, oh well, finally they're doing something, but it's sort of 2 decades or more out.
Yep.
And so it's hard to get very excited about that. So it's hard to know whether that's going to get them any votes.
In terms of a little bit closer to home for Labor, doing something about the environment, particularly with a coalition partner with the Greens, this is something where these are easy runs to score. However, in partnership with, BlackRock, a massive capital investment company. I think they are the equivalent of several large nations' GDP in terms of the amount of money that is channeled through BlackRock every year. Not necessarily a clean green image from BlackRock. However, we're saying, hey, this is the company that we're going to give a monopoly to when it comes to charging our electric vehicles. Again, a little bit of a misfire, Bryce.
Yeah, I mean, the government needs to be seen to be doing some more things on climate. They're under pressure, especially from a lot of environmentalists. And so this is quite in a sense, an easy win for the government to announce $2 billion of investment into clean, green technology.
Yep.
And they don't have to have the taxpayers stump up for it. It's a US private investor company that's coming in and doing it. And it's a great headline, but you're right, it hasn't quite landed, maybe like the government expected. Some environmentalists are questioning this, saying, well, hey, is this the future, that we just farm this out to bankers and investors in the other side of the world? We won't have any kind of ownership of these things. And $2 billion sounds like a lot, but in the scheme of things, it's actually not such a big announcement.
It's not exactly a clean... a clean green image is at Black Rock. I mean,
No,
that's how some people think that the world's going to look if if we don't do something about climate
yeah.
change. But
And they do have a bit of a controversial sort of background in
yeah.
these things. So I don't think we want to totally write it off as useless, but it's certainly not the game changer that's needed. No.
On the other side, though, I suppose National's education policy. I mean, this is hitting the headlines at the moment. That they're going to ban phones from schools. This is going to somehow transform what's happening within our school system. It seems like a little bit of a low blow, a cheap shot, I should say. And again, I'm not sure how sustainable this policy would be. Gosh, now you're giving the teachers something else to deal with.
Well, I think it's good to have a debate about mobile phones in schools.
Yep.
I'm not sure if National's done enough research or if they are just like Labor throwing this in for an election, sort of bump. I find it hard to be objective on this one. I try to be, but I've got 2 kids at school and I worry about them being glued to their phones.
Yep.
And I guess there's an argument that maybe it's parental responsibility or schools should be able to make their own decisions on this, but I actually do think it's quite a major issue about how we deal with phones. Here I am talking to you on a phone. They are amazing things,
yes,
but they are very distracting, and they do come with a lot of problems.
I'm wondering whether this will just give high school students another reason to not turn up to school. But hey, there we go. Some recent polls, in fact, a recent Guardian poll. I think the most interesting aspect of this is New Zealand First staying above the 5%, including 5.5. Look, it's only another poll, but we're beginning to see a trend here. New Zealand First could be, certainly getting across the line, getting above that 5% on election day.
Yes, so the Guardian website have commissioned a poll from an Australian group called Essential Research. It looks pretty robust to me, this poll.
Yep.
But the results, I think National was highest on about 34%. Labor's dropped, they're on 29.
Mm-hmm.
ACT's doing okay, I think, on about 11. Greens on about 9. And yes, as you say, New Zealand First, 5.4%. And so, that's the first time New Zealand First have shown up above 5% on one of these polls. And it looks like they are going upwards. On this poll, it's quite a clean sweep to the right, with National and ACT being able to govern quite easily and without New Zealand First. But really, this is a bit of I wouldn't say a nail in the coffin of the current government's chances, but it's going to be just another one of those things that, makes people think that there's going to be a change of government and that New Zealand First, are a party to take seriously, because they might be part of the next government.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. I read an article about so-called revenge politics, and when it comes to last election, unexpectedly Labor getting a majority, and commentators saying that this was possibly, mostly in response to the way in which Labor handled the pandemic. Maybe it's pushing back the other way. Okay, the pandemic's part of our history, but we're still seeing the long-term consequences in different aspects of our society, and disgruntled people about who perhaps may have been disadvantaged by the government through their COVID policies. They're all going to be keen New Zealand First voters, possibly. What's your thoughts?
Well, there's certainly a lot of disgruntlement about in New Zealand, and we're seeing this in the rest of the world as well. And a lot of analysts are connecting that with COVID. That yes, we saved people's lives, we saved the economy, we saved lots of things, but it was at a cost. And every political decision has costs, and so initially they were all positive for the government in 2020. Now we're getting some of those negative things, especially around the economy. But I would just quickly mention that this Guardian poll out today, one of the interesting elements of it is they looked at support in Auckland and compared it to places like Wellington. And it was astounding that Labor's support in Auckland was much lower It was, I
Wow.
think, 21% compared to National on 40%. And in the capital, where I am normally, Labor was the other way around. Labor
Yep.
was getting about 41% and National was down. So the people are asking, why is Auckland so anti-Labor at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder whether that extended lockdown in 2021 really did burn off a lot of their support. That was quite harsh, that lockdown.
Or perhaps in Wellington they're getting a boost from all of those people with government consultant jobs that are
I suspect so. That might be part of it.
hoping to renew their contracts after the election. Hey, Bryce, appreciate your comments. As always, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks, Andrew.